Okay, so just like in the last video, we're multiplying radicals together. The only difference this time is, as you can see, I have whole numbers out in front. So this time, since I have whole numbers out in front, here's what we're going to do. We're going to multiply the radicals together, and we're going to multiply the whole numbers together. So I'm going to do 3 times 2, which will be 6, and 8 times 5, which will give me 40. So now that I know that I have this right here, I've now successfully multiplied my radicals together, but it could be a little bit simpler. So we are going to simplify radical 40. And just like in the last video, I'm going to use my square roots, or my perfect squares, to help me decide what makes up 40. And so I know that radical 4 times radical 10 would give me 40. And I know what radical 4 is. Radical 4 is 2. I don't know what radical 10 is, so I'm going to leave it. So now I have 6 times 2 times 10, which will give me 12 radical 10. And since radical 10 can't be simplified, this answer is my final answer. Okay, in the second example, we have 12 times radical 3 times 5 times radical 15. And so when I look at this, I'm going to multiply again my whole numbers together and my radicals together. And so when I multiply my whole numbers, 12 times 5 is 60, and radical 3 times radical 15 is radical 45. And again, I'm going to use my roots over here to help me decide which radical will work. And as you can see, radical 9 would be inside 45 because radical 9 times radical 5 gives you 45. And radical 9 would simplify to just be 3. Radical 45, I don't know what that simplifies to be, so I'm just going to leave it there. And then I would just do 60 times 3. And 60 times 3 would give me 180 radical 5. And again, this would be my final answer because I can't simplify it anymore. In our final example, we have 5 radical 18 times negative 2 radical 8. And don't worry about these parentheses that you see. They're just there to show you it's multiplication. And the other reason they're there is because of that negative 2. If you didn't have the parentheses around, it would look like subtraction, and we'll learn about that later. So when I'm looking at these examples, again, I'm going to take my whole numbers. I'm going to multiply them together. So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And I'm going to take my radicals, and I'm going to multiply them together. And 18 times 8 will give me the square root of 144. And I know what the square root of 144 is. If I kept extending my chart down here, 11 would be 121, and 12 would be 144. So the square root of 144 is 12. So 10 times the square root, or times 12, would give me negative 120. And that would be my final answer.